Welcome to the podcast Lead the Future, the Alt Summer Series. Each podcast I will ask 3 panelists an authentic leadership transformation question, in short ALT. This ALT question was part of the ALT Summit's 3rd panel discussion titled The Creative Age is Now. I'm Arjan Visser, a human-centered futurist and your host. Today we gather around the theme The Creative Age is Now. For most of the past 50 years, leadership was shaped by the management age, built on efficiency, processes, and control. But the signs of change have been growing for more than a decade. Identity, purpose, well-being, relationships, and transformation has moved to the center of our conversations. The creative age has begun. It's a human-centered, identity-driven, and transformation-oriented age. It calls us not only to lead differently, but to be different, to shape the foundations of a society where expression, connection, and flourishing are the norm. In this conversation, we explore together what makes the shift to reinvent your leadership critical for the start of the creative age. Every age begins with pioneers willing to reinvent the way leadership is lived. The management age rewarded efficiency and systems, but the creative age requires reinvention. A shift from control to creativity, from hierarchy to shared purpose. The question is, what makes this reinvention crucial at the start of the creative age? Let me briefly introduce my 3 panelists before we go to the conversation. Chris Harding, a true game changer with the relentless curiosity to see beneath the surface and reimagine what's possible. Chris unlocks human potential. He challenges conventional thinking and invites a bold vision of the future where everyone can thrive and be fully seen for their unique good. Sascha Visser, a visionary educational architect who equips leaders to design human-centered learning environments, where the next generation can discover who they are, grow in self-leadership, and prepare to flourish in the creative age, a human-centered society. David Koerts, a courageous builder of futures who partners with forward-thinking pioneers to move beyond outdated paradigms. David activates inner alignment and helps leaders shape ecosystems where purpose, innovation, and lasting change can truly root. Enjoy the conversation. What makes the shift to reinvent your leadership critical for the start of the creative age?
Well, if you continue to work with the results from the past and the paradigms of the past, you will get the results of the paradigms from the past, or let's say like the outdated paradigms. So if we going to continue to work with the paradigms that we have, in essence, then not a lot will change. And so that's why it's so important for us to actually to embrace this time in history, that we actually say, just we have so much knowledge, but it takes courage really to actually do that inner work for us to actually reinvent the future. And to reinvent the future, we have to reinvent actually pretty much, we say leadership, but it means we have to reinvent ourselves. And because if you, like I said, just lean on the results of the external, then the results will also stick to them. And you want actually results that stick to you, which means actually, how can I help others to progress in life? How to help others to advance in life. And so it's and that's going to be a hard job, in that sense. Once you figure it out, really how to be authentic self, then it's going to be probably very easy. But that's the hard part, because we're not used to it. And so that's why we have to embrace it. And I think one of the key ingredients is actually that we have the creativity. It comes, of course, from the word creation. We have the ability to not just extrapolate the past, but make changes in our brains, in our attitudes, in our character, in our belief systems, in our paradigms, and in our world. We can actually choose what we want that to be. And I think that is the challenge for us to actually say, what the kind of ecosystems do we want, and then we have to start build it in that sense from scratch. So that's why when we say, just don't bash the old, we can try to fix the current, but that still gives pretty much the results of the past or the current. Then we really have only one option, and that's to start to reinvent and be innovative and start to call it into existence.
Yeah, thank you.
I
Chris.
hope that's answering your question too.
Chris.
Yeah. So the question was, what makes the shift? And I think I agree with David that you fundamentally have to see it differently to start with, because I grew up in a world where most of my school reports used to say should try harder. And one of my favorite people is Albert Einstein, not just because of E equals MC squared, which is what most people know about, but he said some other profound things as well, like we can't solve the current problems with the thinking that created them. And as you were talking earlier, David, I was thinking that the system doesn't have problems. The system is the problem, right? We've created this system. We call it the economy, right? And whether we like it or not, we've bought into ideas like winner takes all, greed is good, trickle-down economics. If everybody just does their work, the economy works, as it, like that's a thing, but it's just a system. And it's a system that certainly in my early years in business just prized efficiency, right? Which is basically just how do you maximize profit, supposedly for the good of all, but that's not how it's turned out, right? So like Albert says, the problems that were created by the previous thinking can't be solved with the previous thinking. You have to have different thinking. And to just give you an example of that the problems that it's created, in 2010, 388 people owned as much wealth as the bottom 50% of the people on the planet. I mean, that sounds extraordinary. Do you know where we are in 2020, where we were in 2020?
15.
6 people owned as much wealth as the bottom 50%. So there's something about that system that is broken, and should try harder is not going to make it work any better. We have to think differently about what is work really for in this grand adventure of life. What is work for in terms of helping me become all that I can be is a better question, not just how do I make more money for a few people. I think, and there's some really good examples that maybe we can touch on in a little while about how people who have actually made that massive leap. Yeah. When I'm living in a world that I thought was linear and I knew the path to success and it was predictable, but now I'm living in a world where my kids can't afford to buy a house to create a family of their own, something's gone wrong. And we need to change the way we think about it. I think it has to start with a fresh thinking of what's possible.
Yeah.
And it won't be easy.
Well, and the example you give, On the introduction, I said something about the first 7 years of a 50-year cycle. The let's call them the formative years, because we reform the foundation of our time and age.
Yeah.
If you look to the last 50 years, the management age, in the first 7 years, you could say that the output of that, the mantra for the whole management age, was from Friedman, who said that we reinvent capitalism, and the sole purpose of a business is making profit for his shareholders.
Yeah.
Not the stakeholders, not the members, no, the shareholders. So without bashing that, to take David's word, they imagined in the first 7 years an outcome, and the numbers you just gave, Chris, they support their imagined outcome.
Well, no, because he also talked about trickle-down economics, and it hasn't trickled down, has it?
No, but the side effects happen. So let's learn from society, learn from history, and see that what we imagine will manifest. Of course, it will be better in some extents, and in other extents, we've missed the part. For me, that supports the working theory that these years are really important.
Yeah, and to David's point, I think what's also really important then is personal responsibility, because it's not going to change from the top down. It can only change from the bottom up.
Yeah, or inside out. So maybe it's not bottom or top. Maybe it's
I think it's
outside in versus inside out.
Yeah.
Sascha, what's your perspective on this question? Why to make the shift?
Yeah, if you say bottom up, then I think in age, then you have to start young.
Oh.
Exactly.
And
nice.
The other thing is it, you say you don't do it top down, and I thought you have to influence decision makers, because that's where the change is. So then I don't know, have to think about that. But if you speak about decision makers, then they have to rewire and unlearn, and then it's up to me to make that difference and to show and to speak up and to be there personally. Where do I want to go? Maybe it's the age. I'm also 50 and feels like the urge of now is the time. I don't want to waste time anymore, and be there and speak up and say the system the way it is not going to serve the future. Something needs to be done here. And then it's in what believe those leaders right now, and what difference can I show them to them, so their behavior will change and they act different. I think something in that needs to happen. Am I right? Please give me your opinion about that.
Just let's extend that to all our participants. What are your thoughts about what you heard actually from all three of our panelists, that it is the paradigm, it's the belief system, it's what they see themselves. And we all know that what we deep down inside believe is the root for our behavior, which is determines our actions and leads to the results we have. We all know the accountability. If we don't like the results, that we have to all climb all the way back inside to the core of what do I see, what do I believe, what is my paradigm.
Yeah, I look. So I think change generally happens slower than we would like, right? So how many years ago was it we started hearing the wisdom of Sir Ken Robinson, probably at least 10 years ago. And then you'll see a couple of people will be inspired to try something different, like Ricardo Semler. But it won't become the mainstream for quite a long time, partly because people who are at the highest levels of power,
They don't want it.
generally managers. They're not leaders, they're managers. So they like data, and therefore they won't change anything unless the data says so. But for the sake of the future, I think we have to try new things now. And one of the reasons I say that is because I read this book actually I watched a video. I didn't read the book, but there's a book by a lady called Phyllis Tickle called The Great Emergence, which talks about something of the stuff you're talking about, Arjan, about these cycles of change. And one of the harsh realities of these cycles of change is it's like the law of diffusion of innovation. Some people will never adopt it. We have to let the old system just die out and birth something new alongside it sometimes, because it's just you can't fix it from the top. But you can inspire from the bottom. From the grassroots, maybe is a better word.
Yeah. And when you look at when we started to talk about this age, write about it, and you mentioned two really, I think, well-known people, and Ken Robinson definitely in the education space. It's about between 7 and 15 years ago that started.
Right.
We could also make a really safe assumption that the people who are not seeing the benefits for others or themselves will hold on the position they have, and they will probably extend that position for another 7 or 15 years. So the management age didn't end on January 1st, and January 2nd, we had the creative age. Now there is this overlap. And because it's not like written in the stars, this is the calendar. I think we have to let go of that principle, because that's a bit our format. This is the calendar, this is the plan, this is the outcome, the productivity, the efficiency. Just repeating words that you all mentioned, we just have to let it go. So, taking us to the.
I just want to echo that. Can I echo that?
Yes.
In the sense of changing ecosystems and systems that we live in. It's a little bit like our brains. You cannot tell your brain to stop a bad habit just by saying, I'm going to stop the bad habit. That's not how your brain works. So my brains. So the idea is that actually to help you to build a new habit is actually start to focus on the new habit. And so start to rewiring your brain with what you really want, because that is what your brain can do. And then the bad habit will diminish at the end. So if we're going to fight, the bad systems and the old systems, it's wasted energy, because the system won't stop. And in the meanwhile, we focus too much then on stopping something that, and while we could have started building the new. And so it's like the whole idea is how it works in our brains. It works actually also in society.
Yeah. Not surprisingly.
Yeah.
And you have to teach children how it works. It starts from the young age.
And it's like.
Exactly. So start building the new is essential, because then you will get the results of the new.
Yeah. It's a bit
and
like.
If they flourish and they have value to bring to others, then society is different.
Thank you for staying with us till the end. I believe it gave you something to think about. In a minute, I will share my personal takeaways. But before revealing these hidden gemstones, I like to address the dialogue doesn't end here. It's your invitation to continue the journey. I invite you to engage with your own thoughts and insights below, or step directly into the alt forum with us. This is an exclusive peer dialogue for visionary leaders to step into the future. It's a thought-provoking space for forerunners, forward-thinking leaders, and pioneers who are ready to catalyze their authentic leadership transformation. You can experience this powerful forum first and decide later. Just use the link in the description to join. alt.businessrevivalist.com/forum. I'm looking forward to see you there. I like to share a few notes that I made during the conversation with David, Chris, and Sascha. David mentioned that if you continue to work with the results of the past and the paradigms of the past, you will get the same results of these paradigms from the past. And secondly, the blueprint for constructive change is that the real work starts with building the new. So stop wasting your energy fighting the old systems. Chris continues, he says, the system doesn't have problems. The system is the problem. And he's mentioned that you have to reject incrementalism. This calls for a deeper purpose of work. Should try harder is not going to make it work any better. Sascha finishes with mentioning that systemic renewal begins with the youngest generation, and that the personal modeling is the catalyst for institutional change, which means that decision makers have to realize it's up to me to make the difference. I have to rewire, I have to unlearn. To finish, I'd like to thank my guests Chris, Sascha, and David for this great conversation with all their deep and honest answers. I want to thank you for staying with us till the end, and I'm really looking forward to see you in the alt forum. Just use the link in the description, alt.businessrevivalist.com/forum, to experience it first and decide later.